Can you hear me now? There we go. I don't know what's. Thank you, Jack. Appreciate it. That's what's great about having some local folks and people know how to get in touch with you. Uh, so can you hear me now? So we're gonna start over. Let's see. Hey everybody, and welcome to another almost live with Hobo with Wood. After Wednesday night live stream, I went to bed and haven't been out of bed till this morning, and other than the shower and clean up. But I've spent the last 3 or 4 days just resting, laying in bed, and I'm on the mend. I'm finally kicking this. Still got a little in the chest, but I'm feeling a lot better. But today was the first day I've been in the shop since the last live stream. And I wanted to get that nightlight design finished. And so I've been working on it all day. And I don't know. I think maybe in order to accomplish what I was wanting to do, which was hide the bulb completely, I ended up having to have larger vanes, I call them, than I anticipated. So the stars could be larger to achieve more ambient light, but it works. And it went through the process of this one, and like I said, you can see me through there, and I didn't like that for the night light, so I made a little bit larger vanes, but you could still see the bulb. So I ended up with that final design, and this one has the bulb completely hidden, and the stars could probably be larger and maybe let a little bit more light through. And you can't really see it. There you go. I put a large star in the top, so it projects a star up on the ceiling. So I worked on that all day today, and even though I'm not 100% satisfied with the outcome, I figured I'd show you that design process and what I went through to get to that point. And some of you may like that like it is, or you'll see this process and be able to do like many of you I've always done. Take my stepping stones and build on those and create your own unique piece. So we're gonna look at that, and then in addition to just laying in the bed since Wednesday, I also haven't even turned on the computer. I haven't checked emails, messages, so I'm behind. But I figured if I'm going to rest, I need to rest. And so I'm behind on replying to emails, both just emails, patrons. Everybody has been neglected while I just let myself rest. Oh, my. Let me jump over here to the comments and just well, hello, Miss Emma. Emma's here from the UK. Let's see here. Patrick, I wouldn't watch, but I'm exhausted from traveling all day and need some family time after the trip. Good luck with the stream. Well, yeah, if you drove, I seen where you guys were down in I guess it was Orlando, and from West Virginia to Orlando, that's a much longer drive than LBX was. So if you were driving that, yeah, buddy, you need some rest and go spend some time with that pretty family. Let's see here. Looking for just any questions right out of the gate other than just the howdies and the howdy hoes. a lot of conversation amongst yourself, which is great. Do. A lot of familiar faces. And there's Jack telling me no audio, but I didn't have the chats turned on. And also, even if I did, it was so far buried in there, I wouldn't have seen it. So thank you for the direct message that let me know that it wasn't working. So, and I don't know what happened. The StreamYard, I've got one Blue Yeti mic, and somehow the StreamYard was looking for my speakers as input. Every once in a while it'll do that, but I was in such a rush tonight to get here to get to you guys. I didn't check that because I assumed it was okay. Very good. Now I'm caught up. All right, I'm going to do my usual deal here. I'm going to put a big old line of asterisk in here so I know this is where I stopped. And so when I scroll back up the comments, that's where I'm going to pick up. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to waste any time. I'm going to jump right into this design and the process that I went through to get to that and the parts that I used. I designed the globe, if you want to call it that, first to get to where what I thought was going to be the appropriate size. But before I started on the base and to make sure my globe was perfect, once I got to where I thought the globe was right, I stopped and went to Lowe's and picked up 2 items at Lowe's. One was a candelabra socket with a switch on it and a plug. So it's a pre-wired socket with a switch. And then an LED bulb. Let's see here. Well, I'll show you these. The switch and switch. So this was the turn knob lamp socket. It's good up to a 60 watt. And it was $7.98 at my Lowe's. Like I said, it's just got a spring base on it there that you can clamp into the wood and it locks it into place. It's switched and it has the wire already on it. Just plug it in, good to go. And then these were on clearance. These are actually pretty cool bulbs. They're LED smart bulbs. They actually work with Google and Alexa. Normally they're $27, and they've got them on clearance right now at Lowe's for $6.72 for the pair. So I spent $15, I think it was, yeah, give or take, and was able to have the hardware that I needed to create one of the bases and have an extra bulb. I used Gravini to make the base so I could save some time because I'm against a clock here. Because like I said, I just started this morning. And let's jump over to Lightburn. And go to new. No. So it's a real simple, basic design. Like I said, I used Gravini to make the box. And then for the lampshade, it went through, or the globe, shade and or globe, it went through a bunch of metamorphoses to get to this point. What I did was I looked to try and maximize as much of the material on a 12 by 12 piece as I could. And use that to help configure or decide on the overall size. And this one turned out to be right about 5.5 inches tall, give or take. And I was looking to make a globe, so it made sense to start with, a complete circle and go with. By the time I figured it out, I needed half of it, a full half globe. But in order to, I also had to have my slots in here for it to fit into the top and bottom rings, and then some tabs on the bottom to fit into some slots that I put in top of the box. So figuring out where all that goes was a little bit of a thinker. It's not hard to do, but you had to be able to see it in 3D and think it through. But if I start with a half a circle, or a circle rather, and I go with a 5.5 inch circle, all right, 5.5 inch circle, and I want to show my nodes. There are no nodes, so I have to convert it to a shape. Right click, convert to a path rather, show my nodes. And now I can just select that one and hit the letter D for delete, and then hover over that line and just say L. That's a half a globe, half a circle. Then I needed to put my slots in here, and I'm working with 3mm wood. So I would draw out a rectangle, and I wanted it to be, what did I go with? I think I went with 3x6, I think. Yeah, 3x6. The material is 3mm high, and I went with 6mm wide for one of the tab, or one of the slots. And I come up here and I base this really just kind of on looks. I didn't want to get this so high up here to the top that this piece became fragile, too fragile. So I wanted to make sure I had about equal distance. I wanted to come down at least about 3mm from the top, so that stayed fairly strong. Duplicate that, Control D, duplicate it, and I did the same thing at the bottom. I'm just designing this by look, by eyeball. Group those two together, and then select the circle, hold my shift key, select that, and subtract the two. And it did not, they weren't docked up against it. It didn't subtract correctly. So undo. I'm going to ungroup those again, make sure that they are docked. I didn't want to move that. Undo. I want to hold my shift key, select that, and align it to the right side. That should work. And just to double check it, I'll just say A, subtract B. There we go. That worked. And I'm going to make sure that's docked all the way to the right, and then A, subtract B. So that gives me my two slots. And down here at the bottom, I should have went ahead and just duplicated that because I need another 3x6 to put on the tabs at the bottom. That's okay. I'll just draw another one. Almost got 3x6. Unlock my aspect ratio 6:3. And then now here, because this is a curve, when you dock this to that corner right there, you're going to have that gap over here. Now that's docked where you need it to be, and you don't need this to come down any further. So I can select just that and just draw up the top. It doesn't matter how far it goes up above it, because we're going to weld those together. So A plus B, and weld those together. And so now that's a 3x6 tab that'll stick down into one of those slots. So there's that design. That shape is pretty well done. Now, if I want to create some stars, and I've shown you before how to draw a star, but we'll do it again. We'll start holding my shift key and the polygon tool and draw out a perfect polygon, hold my control button and get that little purple or blue dot to pop up. So if I hold my control and I roll over to the left or move it counterclockwise, it starts reducing the number of sides. And I want to get a pentagon. Now I will flip my pentagon. There we go. And I'm going to go to my pencil tool and draw a straight line from here to here, back down to there, to that point, and that point. Now I will select just the star, do a 0 offset, and delete the original. And then I can delete my pentagon. And then I've got a perfect star. That might be a little big, and I'm going to make them a little bigger than I did up here. But now I'm going to come up here to the top where I'm beyond the outermost left perimeter, and I'm going to start doing an array. And we'll move this over here where I can see it. And I'll start with 0 x spacing and 0. We're going to start with 0, 0. And I don't need to shift by half. But now let's see here. We'll give it a 15. No, let's go 12. No, 10. Maybe 8. And now come down with rows. And now that I've got that array, I am going to shift it by half on the Y. There we go. That's looking better. And now I wish they'd have called this the hobo orientation tool. But this random orientation right here, if you see right now, all of the stars are pointing due north. We're going to turn on the random orientation. And that causes all those stars to kind of scramble and move around happy-go-lucky wherever they might fall. And if you don't like that particular orientation, you can use this up and down arrow here to change how they are positioned. That's all the different keys or different possible combinations that they can be rotated in. Group the results and select the results and say, okay. And now I've got that, but now I'm looking here at the different problems. Like I don't want that star here. It can't cut away all that. So that's got to, that needs to be solid area. So I'm going to move that array around to where about like that. Get it up out of the way. All right. And that one's completely in the way. And that one's good now. But I also don't like how close that is to the edge. So I'm going to hold my control button and I'm going to shrink it down a little bit. To about there. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to ungroup those because that one is just totally in the way and ain't going to work there. I'm just going to delete that completely. And I'll go ahead and delete this one up here. I believe I can work with the rest of that. So now what I'm going to do is select the entire thing, hold my control button and select the pie shape or the half globe. That deselects it by holding control. I'm going to group everything back together. So now all the stars are a group. So now I'm going to select the half shape, hold my shift key, select the group of stars and hit the subtract button. And that gives me half a globe with all the stars in it. All right. And don't see any questions just yet. So we're going to keep burning through this design process. And like I said, if you don't like doing the stars, you could do, in fact, You could do a half moon. And to do half moon, simply just draw you a circle, Control D, duplicate it, and then move it over until you get the size of crescent that you would like to see right here on this side. And then you would say A, the first one, subtract B, which is here. And there's you got you a half crescent or a crescent moon that you could use there. Or you could do both. You could do stars and moons. Or you could design your own vein or part of the globe that whatever suits you, whatever like shape like you like. If you like the idea, if you're not concerned about seeing the bulb, then you don't have to go all the way in with that. And here, these are actually crescent shaped pieces. They're where I didn't go half, so it's not a straight edge on the inside there. It's a crescent shape as well, and easier to see here is a thinner crescent shape. So there you would see the bulb. And I wish I knew what I did with that other bulb, because it came two to a pack. It's not a bad looking bulb, but anyway, squirrel. All right. So now we've got one of those done. All you got to do is Control D, duplicate it. Once you duplicate it, mirror it, and then move it out over to using the arrow key just to arrow it over. And then you can dock it right up against the other one. Group those together, or you don't even have to group them. You just say Control D, duplicate that. That gives you 2, 4. Oops, wrong button. Or I didn't mean to select that. Select all that, Control D, duplicate that. Gives you all of that. Now, for the centerpieces, let's see, Mark says, do an offset of the crescent moon and inset. Do an offset of the crescent moon and inset the moon among the stars. Yeah, absolutely. Cut in half horizontally, and they could be added as covers for downlights. Yep. And and here I'm just kind of showing you the idea of the process I went through to create this concept that I've got, and then you can take and build on it, because the tricky parts are coming up as far as like figuring out these pieces and creating this for the top and the bottom, and how big do these holes need to be? How did they get this these slots figured out in the circles and that kind of thing? So far, it's been kind of basic, not a lot to think about. But let's see here. Move this over here. All right. This started out being just a 50 millimeter circle. And this inner piece, that let's ungroup them so I can select just the inner. That circle was the size of that was determined on the size of the bulb. I'm gonna find that bulb. Let me stand up a second. Oh, that's the wrong one. Ah. If it was a snake. All right, so this is the bulb that I used, and it's a candelabra size socket. But the girth of the bulb here is what determined the size of that inner hole. So I had to go get the bulbs to figure out my dimensions for this piece. And that's also going to be crucial for you as well. But that's the easy part. How big does that hole need to be? It needs to be big enough for the bulb to go through. But what about these angles? How was that done? All right. Like I said, I started out with a 50 millimeter circle, holding my shift key, draw out a perfect circle, lock my aspect ratio and go to 50 millimeters. And now I've got a 50 millimeter perfect circle. Now, if you remember, I went with a 3x6. So unlock, I need 6 millimeters wide and 3 millimeters. And that was how big my slot was for here. Now I want to do the same thing on this piece. And somebody asked me this the other day and I forgot to do, I didn't forget, I just didn't address it. Here, this is sitting horizontal 3x6, and you can rotate this several different ways. You can grab your rotate button or arrows there and start moving it around. But is it perfectly moved 90 degrees right there? I don't know. It looks like it might be. Nope, because see, it's not. It's not 3x6. It's close, but it's not perfect. You can also come up here to your rotate and just tell it to rotate 90 degrees. Or you can use your greater than and less than buttons. Your greater than and less than buttons are also, if you look at them on the keyboard, they look like they're arrows pointing left and right. And that's, if you hit the less than, which is also your comma key, your less than button will rotate it, if you select it, will rotate it counterclockwise. And if you use your greater than, it rotates it clockwise. Now, it's hard to tell that because this is only a two-sided piece. But if it was a multi-sided piece and you want to rotate counterclockwise 90 degrees, then you'd use your less than button. So greater than and less than are also arrows that point in the direction that it will rotate itself 90 degrees. So I'll use that, and I come here and tell it to go to center and the top. Now, with that orientation, those veins are going to just slide straight on there, and you're going to be able, and that's how I did the great big lamp. The lamp, the hanging light fixture is just done at 90 degrees. But I don't want this one at 90 degrees because I want to be able to hide those, hide the bulb. And I, as I showed you, I did one fixture and this one. You can see, you probably can't tell it, but trust me when I tell you, this one was done at 45 degrees. And this one was done, I think, at 60 degrees. And it's still able to see through it. You still see through the center, and what you can see the bulb. So what I found that worked, and also what you have to look at here, and I'm going to show you all this comes into play. It all works together. 75 degrees was the rotation that I needed to be able, and then also increasing to a flat side. And how did I know that they weren't going to collide with each other and bottom out? Well, we're going to look at all that too. So this piece, I rotated, I think it's actually negative 75 degrees, negative 75. Nope, it was just 75. So undo, 75 degrees rotation. All right. Now, see how it's dropped down here at the bottom? Some of you have asked in the past why you would need to change your anchor point. Well, this is why. If I come back up here, undo. Now that's centered, vertical center in that circle and top center. And as you see, it extends beyond that corner here and here because it's centered to that center point and the center point of the circle. But if I want to keep this point right here anchored to that part of the circle, then I'm going to change my anchor point to that top right. And now when I rotate 75 degrees, come on, undo. Now when I rotate 75 degrees, that stayed in place, but now it's way, way too tall. So undo, I'm going to anchor my left one and go to 75 degrees. That's better, but obviously it's not long enough. So I'm going to grab right here, and that won't work. I anchored that corner to the top right there. And that gave me a 75-degree angle, but it's not long enough. So what I did was rotate that back negative 75 degrees. And now I'm just going to draw this out. Don't know how long it is, just drawing it out. And I'm going to rotate that back 75 degrees. Ah, you devil. This was tricky. Bring you down here. Top left, rotate 75 degrees. That's what it was. Once I got it in that position, then I just drug this out here until it came in contact there with the circle, like that. Then with that corner there, and just for giggles, if I do, well, let's see here. I'm going to come in here to node editing. It's not a shape. I got to convert it to a path first. Convert to a path. I want to put a node right in the middle. Well, that's close. And now I can use my ruler to measure that segment length. And that's 6.09 millimeters. And so that's good. I wanted to have at least 6 millimeters coming inside here. And then it's going to extend in here another 6 millimeters because of the way that the slots are cut. All right. So now with that selected, hold my shift key, select the circle, and do my circle array. And I need 10 vanes. And I want to make sure that they are rotated, because if you don't rotate your object copies, you get that result. And that ain't going to work. So make sure you rotate your object copies and say OK. Then select your circle, hold your shift key, select that, and subtract that. And that's how I created the piece for the vanes to stick in. And that's the same piece, top and bottom, but the bottom one just needs to have a hole large enough for the bulb to be able to protrude through. And then I put the star in that top piece. Now I use Gravini to make this box. And we've looked at Gravini before, but we're going to look at it again. We'll go here. Gravini. Because it's that fast. Got to spell it right, dum-dum. Do the Gravini box generator, and I determined that I only needed to have, I think it was 25 millimeters tall. Oh, no, I went with 30 because they have a minimum 30. And then I went with, I think it was 75 and 75, I think. And there was my basic box. I did not put any holes in the bottom. I left it as a solid box, but I do need to have a hole in order for my wires to go in the side. And then I had to have a hole in the top and in the slots. So I downloaded this real quick, generated that SVG, downloaded the SVG, and then imported that SVG into Lightburn. And got this right here. And what I did was I measured the wire for the extension for the electrical on that socket. And at its narrowest point, it was 2 millimeters or 2.5 millimeters. And then at its widest point, it was about 5.5. So I made this hole 6 millimeters wide for the widest part of that wire to come through. So the wire was kind of like that. So I was able to twist it on its side, insert it in there, and then it slides through. And it's also part of the tab. So easy peasy, simple to do. And to do that, I'll undo it right now so you can see how easy that is to do. Well, nope, nodes, there we go. All right, so that's how it came in from Gravini. Well, I knew, like I said, the widest point on my wire was just under 6 millimeters. So I drew out a perfect circle that was 6 millimeters in diameter. Put it in the center, vertical center. There we go. And I actually took it in kind of close to the bottom. There we go. And then I said, I think it was 2.5 millimeters. We'll go with 3 for this demonstration. 3 millimeters. Doesn't matter about the width of it. I'm going to bring that over here and put it in the center of that circle, vertical center. And select those two, weld them together. Then select the box, hold the shift key, select that piece and subtract. And that put in the perfect little slot for my wire to go through there. So that's easy enough to do. Here, I had to measure the spring on that socket. I had to measure the width of that spring to know, you know, it sprung out. So I kind of squeezed it together a little bit so that the whole, when I released it, there'd be good tension on it. So I measured from one side of that spring to the other, and I said, okay, that's how big the hole needs to be right here for that spring piece to fit through and still have tension to hold it. So that was easy to figure. Turns out this one was a 24 millimeter hole. Now this piece, getting those circles or those slots lined up and positioned correctly, how hard was that? Well, it wasn't terribly hard. All right, let's look at this piece down here. This is designed so that when this 6-inch slot slides into this 6-inch slot, they're going to bottom out against each other here, 6 millimeter. So if I had a 3x6 square or a rectangle, 3x6, 3x6, not inches, stupid, millimeters, 3x6. All right, we're going to use our, y'all remember the Control 2? All right, we're going to use Control 2. I'm going to snap this right here to that corner. And now I'm going to hit Control, the number 2, and select that corner as the anchor point. Then come over here and grab this corner and rotate it out. And here we go. There's a problem. This one would have run into each other. So I would have to reshape this. See how that's hitting here? I didn't have those spaced properly. I didn't have them down far enough. So, and this is what I did today between waking up and going live. So it was a 50 millimeter hole, 50 millimeter circle by 50 millimeters. And that's on being on a, the problem with this, trying to enlarge this right now, because this is on that 75-degree angle. If I just start stretching it out, the angle changes. And so that don't work. So you've got to get it to the right length and height while it's in its right, either at a 90-degree or while it's perpendicular or horizontal. So we'll do another one real fast. 3 by 6. Let's go 3 by 6. There you go, dummy. Rotate it. Actually, 3 by 6 don't work. It needs to be longer because it needs to extend beyond the end of it. 75-degree rotation. I'm going to move this one into place. And now I can use that with this and the circular array to see. Yeah, see, that won't quite cut it. So I ended up not getting a full 75-degree rotation out of it. There, that clears. And actually, I can come back a little bit with it. There. All right, so I just need just this one and the circle and circle array 10 times and say, okay. What happened? I didn't say okay, did I? I said cancel or something. Say okay. Those are groups in the circle minus this. There. And this is how far they're going to come in and extend into the next piece. So that one is trash. That one works. So that one's the right dimensions. That one's going to work fine. And I also have this. Now, the way I generated that circle, the array for this piece here, those are docked right up against there. Each corner is correct. Hold that. Select the circle piece again and do another circular array, 10 pieces. Make sure that you're rotating and you group the select and then select the results. Say okay. And now move that over here. And that would be the circle that you weld into place up here. And that would be where those tabs are going to need to be placed. If I select all that and deselect that, delete them. So there, those are grouped together. Select that and tell it to bullseye. And that easy, you've got the correct orientation for all of those slots. So let's see here. Jack says I use them light in boxes I made years ago. I broke the spring off and friction fit the socket in the base. Yep, that's an option too. Yep. Chris says I inserted a midpoint node and used that. Yeah, to align it to circle. That would work too. Question: Could a cut piece of polystyrene like they line shades and put in middle of tube shape down middle of globe that are narrow design hide the bulb? Well, they make all kinds of those pieces at Lowe's where you can hide the bulb, and it just gives you a white emission. You just hides the bulb out of sight. I was actually just trying to hide my goal was, and by the time I went through each of these metamorphoses and got to this point, I achieved my desire of hiding the bulb. But my thought, what I was hoping to have the outcome be, was not seeing any of the bulb, have the light coming through just stars. You'd be able to see all the stars illuminated very plainly. But because the veins on here, I call these veins, they overlap each other so much that you don't see a whole lot of the star where the light is actually coming through. So instead of getting any light source directly from the stars, it's all ambient light. And it doesn't look terrible with the lights out. You know, but I think it would look better if the stars were larger on this particular design. But this was my third attempt at trying to hide the lamp completely, and then realized after I got it all put together, okay, the stars could and should be bigger. But they do make those. In fact, I think they're supposed to simulate like candles, but it's that white clear plastic. You can get those large enough to slide right over the whole bulb in the electrical department. Soak and raise. Why would you need the bottom ring? How else are you going to hold the shape? Well, because this is why. This, you got to be able to change the bulb, right? This is an LED bulb, so it's going to last quite a while. But you're going to need to be able to get in there and clean, or well, possibly clean and or replace the bulb. So these slots, they're not glued together. It's just friction fit. So I can take that out and change the bulb, and the globe stays intact because that's all glued together. And now I can just take that, slide it back down on top, friction fit my slots back into place, and she's good to go. So that's why I did it with a top and bottom ring, so I can remove the globe. Jack, well, Chris, too, Jack, you need to put in a standing order of one of anything Steve buys. LOL. Yeah, I'm glad I'm feeling better too, and back to designing. I've really taken a hit over the last 2 weeks, not just physically, but in every possible way. My yard looks like a jungle. My grass should have been cut 4 times by now, and it hadn't been cut once. I'm gonna have to trim it with a weed eater at least once or twice before I can even attempt to take a mower through it. It's pathetic. I've neglected my patrons on Patreon. You guys, the channel, YouTube channel, has taken a hit because of the inactivity. I was really hoping to have 10,000 subscribers between now and June 15th, the anniversary special. I was on track to make that happen. It can still happen, but it's fallen off because my inactivity for 2 weeks. So if you're not a subscriber, hit that subscribe button. Let's see here. Question mark. Really need you to make a video series of your tutorials. Anyone else still interested in that? Man, I've got right at 200 videos right now. 200 videos that are available on hobowithwood.com. And in the very, very early days, I wasn't doing a lot of designing because I didn't know how to design yet. I was still learning how to use the tools. And we're going to talk about that in a few minutes because I'm going to do some Q&A here. I'm going to address some questions that have been sent to me via email and also in the YouTube comments. And so when I'm designing this right here, right now, am I expecting you to go do this exact same thing? You're more than welcome to. So I'm teaching you step by step on how I did, and you see how I screwed up things and how I found the screw up, fix them. So you're more than welcome to go duplicate or try to emulate anything I'm making. But beyond that, it's more about learning to use the tools. And in some of those early 200 videos, instead of doing a design and I'm using 12 different tools and doing those things, I talked about working with one particular tool. Hey, check this out. This is what I learned today. Today, I learned this. And I worked with one particular tool. And some of them were as basic as explaining the difference between the offset fill, the fill, and the different also fill in groups, fill individual shapes, all these different things. I've talked about all of those things in depth, but just about one particular tool. So they're out there. You just have to go back and watch those early videos, and that helps me. That helps my channel. You watching those, any watch hours helps, and they're out there. Mark says, I was wondering how you'd access the bulb, change it. It's not glued together. The globe just pops off. Yeah. Let's see. Terry says, time to buy a goat. Yeah, as a teenager, we had some goats, and I was not kind to those goats. I was an evil teenager, and those goats, I feel so bad for those goats. We tortured those goats, not being mean torture, just being teenager torture, antagonizing them goats. I grew up with goats. Wouldn't need a goat long, not the size of my yard. Goat clean my yard up in a day. Let's see. Am I going to make this project available for sale? Yeah, I will have this up online. It's not going to be up online today or tonight, but I'll try to get it up this weekend. But the problem with it is unless you go to Lowe's and get the exact same hardware kit, the exact same bulbs, all that stuff, then you're going to have to resize and reshape, or recalculate some of the things. But yeah, I will have the base on there, the base design on there, with you having the understanding that you're either going to have the exact same pieces, or you're going to have to be able to make it fit your stuff and know that. Thank you, Brad. Appreciate it. I don't do coffee. I do hot chocolate. I love me some hot chocolate. And we used to have, we don't have, in fact, our local McDonald's have even quit doing the bagels. McDonald's had bagels for a while, and they still had them up north, and Yankees enjoy their bagels. And while I was traveling, I was thrilled to death to see that the Yankee McDonald's still had their bagels when we'd already got rid of them down here. I love me a good bagel, hot cocoa. But thank you, appreciate it. Yeah, a pay master course would help me and you. I toyed with the idea back several weeks ago, and it's still not out of the realm of possibility of doing uh, a calendar, a schedule where I can do some one-on-ones or maybe 5-on-ones. I don't want to be a big class if I did a class, but you could actually come and join me here in the YouTube studio, and I can address questions in real time, and you could interrupt and as I'm demonstrating. But problem with that is even now where I tell people I'm happy to help you, contact me and I'll send you the link and you can come join me. And I do that for free and without asking for any monetary assistance at all. Trying to coordinate schedules. My schedule's flexible. But I find that a lot of people just, they want to, but they're just not available to get there. When I'm in the shop working, if I'm here all day, they're, either on their 9 to 5 or they're just too tied up and they can't get there. And so even doing it for free, it's hard to get hooked up with people sometimes. Okay, I don't follow you on that one, Stacy. Can you send one that plows snow? Or y'all must be talking about something else I missed there. All right. So we got, I'm going to put me another asterisk across here. All right. So we went over that basic design. Now, a goat that plows snow, a goat that plows snow. I ain't seen none of them. I ain't seen none of them at all. All right. That'd be a unique goat, a very talented goat. Switch here to here to here. Get rid of that. All right. Let's see here. In fact, looks like Ron's jumped in here already tonight with an email. So I want to address some email questions. Some of you may be here tonight that these are your questions, and if not, you'll be watching it in the repeat. But you may all find these informative. Okay, switch. So I haven't even read this one yet. Ron Davis sent an email, says, I like your lamp design with the stars. I saw the base and thought how it would be great to make it make it round with a pattern that with the objects on the wall. Yep. And that's kind of what I was hoping to do with the stars. But because they overlap each other, instead of here where the panels just, butt up against each other, then it doesn't work. But if you did it in a round where they butt up to one another, yeah, that could definitely work. Let's see here. Go back. All right. And let's see here. All right, Al Wilkins says, all right, this is a question about lasers. Says, I'm thinking about a more powerful laser module. I only cut and engrave as a hobby. I'm guessing that's a Sculpt Fun S10. Now, I like it, but it takes too long to cut 1/8-inch wood. My average cutting time on votives and wall art, etc., is over 1 hour. at first that was fine. Now I would like to cut that in half and stay with a diode, not a CO2. Will an upgraded laser be the answer or a new machine? My present cutting on 1/8" ply is 350 speed. I'm guessing 350 millimeters a minute and 80% power. He hopes I'm feeling better. Loves my YouTubes, and he's trying not to miss any new ones and catching up on all the old ones. All right, so I'm not familiar with the Sculpt Fun S10, but I went and looked at the Sculpt Fun and all others that are out there. It looked like they had varying modules for each of those, anywhere from 11 to 22 to up to 30-watt laser modules. So I don't know if you have the 10-watt or the 20-watt, but this I went through the same thing you went through. I started out with that X-Full D1 10-watt, and I was absolutely flabbergasted and frustrated beyond all, trying to cut out projects and it taking forever. And initially, I was working with 4.5 millimeter birch that I got from Lowe's, and trying to cut that stuff with a 10-watt diode was taking anywhere from 3 to 5 passes, 100% power, and at maybe anywhere from, what was it, 240 millimeters a minute, give or take. And that would take you 3 to 5 passes. That was taking forever. That was before I found my really good premium quality 3 millimeter Baltic birch. That cuts quicker. It's thinner. But I was thinking, okay, I can't wait this long to cut something out. So I was thinking I needed I did. I got the Monport. I got the Monport CO2. And if you're going to be in production and business, manufacturing 10 or 12 of the same things over and over again, it's hard to do that and be profitable with a diode. If you're going to be in business, you almost have to have a CO2 that's going to cut much, much faster, a bigger working bed where you can take and cut out 4 of the same project at one time, and you can cut 4 out in the time it takes, or less than it takes you to cut out 1. And you can justify the expense of a CO2 that way. But I don't use my CO2 now unless I'm cutting acrylic. They're big. They're clumsy. I like the precision of my Rolly diode. So I don't turn on the CO2. But even with my 30-watt my 30-watt diode, and I'm cutting through my 3 millimeter Baltic birch, you said you're doing 350 at 80% power. I can cut cleanly through with my location, because location is as important as your laser is when it comes to cutting power. Not everybody's aware of that, but your geographic location has as much to do with the cutting power of your laser as anything does. But in my location with a 30-watt diode, I'm able to cut cleanly through 3 millimeter Baltic birch at a 420 up to 450 millimeters a minute in a one pass at 100% power. So you're not seeing a huge increase in speed from what you say you're doing up to the 30-watt. So I don't know what module you've got as power wise, because you didn't actually say. If you really like the laser you have, you're familiar with it, you know how to work it, you've gotten around any of the laser's shortcomings, you figured them out and know how to work around them, and you're happy with it, then you might consider just getting a replacement module instead of upgrading your entire thing. But whenever the new extended version Rolly comes out, which I think he said hopefully was going to be in May, was that what he said in the live stream? That might be something you might consider, especially if it's 40 watt or higher. I forget. Did he say 70? I can't remember because my brain is still in a bit of a fog. But I know they were talking about 70-watt diodes. I don't know if Rolly was talking about doing that with any of the new ones that are coming. That might be later, down the road. But a larger work bed with the extended Rolly that's coming, that would be something to definitely consider. Looking for any feedback. Brad says that he had the S10 10-watt 3-millimeter birch, and he was taking 3 passes at 90% at 500 millimeters a minute. Slow, but it did do great in graves. Also slow, but you having to do that, and see, that's what he wasn't real clear about as far as which power. And Al, I don't know if you're in here or not tonight watching, but if you are, chime in. He didn't talk about the power of his laser module. He just says, my present cutting is on 1/8 inch is 350 speed and 80% power. So, they didn't talk about the laser module power or how many passes that was taken. But, yeah, so a little bit of assumption going on there. Yeah, I agree with you. Well, yeah, diodes will replace CO2s very soon for speed and cutting, but because of it being the blue diode, they're still not going to be able to do the clears and the translucents and the acrylics. So there's still going to be a place for those CO2s. But that great big CO2 that I've got, that's kind of too much for just a hobbyist. The smaller desktop CO2s, that might be something worth investing in if you're still going to be doing just hobby stuff. Sharon asked, how does the MK2 30-watt handle cutting 1/4 inch materials? I'm running material test tomorrow, but was wondering if it handled it. Yeah, it does it fine. In fact, I was trying to remember what I cut. I cut through some was it 5/16? Yeah, it was some really pretty thick stuff the other day. It was over 1/2 inch, and I was surprised and pleased with how well it did. But test, because your physical location is one of the key factors about what your speed and powers are going to be. It's as important as the material you're using. And Pop says, I just wanted to apologize for complaining about at the last live stream I was at. I hope I wasn't offensive to anyone. Pop, you didn't offend me, and you, in fact, I was going to address your email here in just a minute. Pop said that he had posted something and it either didn't show up or wasn't showing, and I've seen that happen to me when I'm watching Steve and Dave and the Clack Shack and their lives. Occasionally I'll post and it doesn't show up in the stream. And the first couple of times that it happened, I was like, okay, did I say something or do something that either Steve or Dave took offense to and they blocked it or deleted it from the chat? But it's happened enough now that I don't think it's them so much as it is about the YouTube algorithm or something, because Patrick had it happening to him. Patrick tried to commenting on my stream once or twice, and he said that, and it never showed up. It never populated. And he thought that I blocked him. And I said, no. And Pop emailed me and said, hey, man, you didn't block me. And I said, no. I said, I didn't see it. So on occasion, the YouTube algorithm apparently will, for whatever reason, prevent some of the posts from being populated in the chat, because it's happened to me. And I know of multiple people that have told me that their posts weren't showing up either. But I'll never block anybody. I am an equal opportunity offender. I don't want anybody offended by anything that I say, and I don't want anybody posting directly stuff that, or posting stuff that is just blatantly offensive. But people, there again, we got right and left, and we got right brain and left brain people. We don't all think alike. We don't all feel the same, and you got to respect each other. So, no hate speech, and and just because somebody disagrees with the way you think or do something, hey, they got a better way of doing it, and that works for them. Great, but no worries, pop. Not for me anyway. Hey, in fact, speaking of Steve, hey, Steve. Steve says he had a couple of the S10 series machines, and I don't think it's just a module swap to go from 10 to 20. The 20 has a different gantry. Oh, yeah, because the size of the module is getting so much bigger, I guess. And that's something that I haven't messed with myself yet. Fortunately, this swap, you didn't have to mess with the gantry. But guys, as you go bigger in or more power, the modules are getting bulkier. So the regular gantries on some of the lasers, where they come down to the home position, well, if you put that larger module on there and try to come to the same home position, and that's going to be crashing into stuff. So they make different changes in geometry and shapes and different size gantries. So sometimes those upgrades can be a little bit more aggravating than just simply swapping out a module. And then it might be more advantageous just to get another laser instead of having to go through all that stuff and then to make sure everything's square, everything's tight, and the headaches. I'm not one. Some of you guys love doing that. Some of you absolutely love getting the erector sets and building your own everything, getting the control boards and I even see and hear the excitement in Dave's voice on Clackcheck when he talks about getting all the modules and the servos and the switches and building these different things. I don't want no part of that. I want to take it out of the box, plug it up, and go to work. Let's see here. Well, Moses, thank you, brother. Thank you. Yeah, Mark, Clack cut 1/2-inch Baltic birch with the Atom Stack 70. Wow, yeah, I didn't see that yet. I've seen a short. I've seen his YouTube short, but like I said, I haven't since Wednesday. I haven't turned my computer on or done anything. And I think I got an alert where he did a YouTube short showing that he was going to review that. And I seen the short, and that's all I seen. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to put another set of asterisks down here and go answer some more questions. So now I've gotten to the bottom of that and go to my inbox. Al, let's see here. Okay, this is going to be a quick one. This, I don't know, and I'm going to say this wrong. I'm just going to, I'm sure it's not going to be right. But Jamie Schwegman emailed me and asked me, says, I'm trying to make a tulip flower and can't figure out how to make the petal. It needs to be an oval that has a point at the top and bottom. Maybe you could show that in one of your videos. Thank you for everything you do. Your video is always fun and entertaining, and I learn a lot. Okay, so how are you going to make an oval with a point at the top and the bottom? All right, so I wasn't real sure about tulip design. So tulip petals. And he said an oval with a point at the top and the bottom. That's simple. But I Googled tulip petals and images. And here's an oval with just a point at the top. And I didn't see any of them that with a point at the top and bottom. They've all got rounded bases. That one's kind of a point and a point, but and here there is a rounded base, but this is one of the simpler things you can do in Lightburn and using the node editing. So let's get back over here and delete all of that and go back to there. So and this is just one way that I can do this. And if I draw out a rectangle and I'm going to right click, get over here where I can do that. Now right click, convert to a path, show my nodes. And then I'm going to actually, I'm going to put a node in the middle, all four middles. So I'm just using my letter M, 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 and M. Come on, M. There we go. Insert four nodes there. I'm going to take this one, hover over it. Actually, you know what? First, I'm going to delete my corner nodes. Select it and hit the letter D. D, D, and D. Now I come over to the side node and I'm going to hover over it and hit the letter S. And the S. And that actually doesn't look too terribly bad for a flower petal. That could work if you wanted it with a point on each end. Now, some of the other ones I've seen, they were rounded at the bottom with a point at the top. So here, I'm going to come over here and get my ruler, measure that segment. It's 43 millimeters. Just for giggles, I'm going to change it and just tell it 40 millimeters in width. Now it's 40. I know half of 40 is 20. So I'm going to use my radius tool and tell it to go to 20 millimeters. So I come down here to this bottom and create a radius right there, create a radius right there. And since I went with 20 and the total was 40, a 20 millimeter radius here and here makes that a perfect semicircle. I'll come up here and put use my letter M in my node editing, nodes, put a M right in the middle and select that and delete that one and delete that one. And then if I want to add a little bit of curvature here, I'll come over here and hover above that node. I'm not on it, but above it there on the line there, and hit the letter S for smooth. And I can now draw that out. Come over here, hit the letter S for smooth, and do the same thing there. Draw that out. And there's a petal kind of like what they were. There was two different versions they were showing there. There with a pointed and a rounded bottom, and then there where it's kind of pointed on both ends. So it's really easy. Node editing, once you get comfortable working with nodes and learning how to change them from a corner to a curve to a line, and then how to grab those tangents, draw them out to elongate your curves or stretch them or shrink them, make them bulbous or really straight and angular. I do have videos about just node editing and all of those shortcuts if you haven't seen that. And who was that email from? That was from, go back, Schwegman, Jamie Schwegman. So Jamie, if you're here, you can see, you are, there you are. Hopefully that is, James says you always, thank you, always make it look easy. It is easy. It's so simple. I mean, I don't make it look easy. It's just easy to do. You just knowing how to manipulate those nodes. So if you have, I did an in-depth video here a few weeks ago on node editing and showing all those shortcuts. Go up into my search area on my channel and just search nodes. There's probably going to be 3 or 4, but there's one that's a really in-depth look about node editing. So I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad I was able to address that for you. Let's see what else I had here. I'm going to try and answer as many of these as I can. Where are we at? We're at an hour 22, so we're going to go a few more minutes. Let's see. Oh, this is a good one. This is a really, really good one. But before I jump into there, I'm going to look at these other comments here. Dale says, last week I mentioned that I had shrunk your Love God cross into a keychain size. This week I added a point to the bottom, making the keychain. Yeah. And that I believe would be really popular. And that's right. Is that God will protect you? Yes. Let's see here. Pop says playing with nodes is one of my favorite things to play with. I used to do it in GIMP, and Lightburn does a great job with it. Yep. It's so much easier to manipulating your designs when you learn all of those shortcuts, the trim features and the break features, and I'll go over all that in-depth node video. All right, so this next one is an email from Mandy W. And Mandy had a situation where I'm sure she got this image somewhere online, and it's just not producing the results when she's trying to engrave it. And she couldn't figure out why. And she sent me a photo of the artwork in Lightburn and then showed me the output, and you'll look at it. And at first I'm scratching my head, and then I said, oh yeah, this is obvious. When you've been doing this as long as I have, and you're doing enough designing, and you play with enough people's problem files, and a lot of the problem files are files that you guys get that were not designed in Lightburn. 99% of the time when I see this, it was something that was done in Adobe Illustrator or something else. And for the life of me, I don't understand why it's necessary to have this situation. But let's take a look at this email and take a look at these images. So switch. So let's see here. All right. So I'm just going to open this up. So she had a heart shape that she was wanting to cut out and have this engraving of these flowers and a little honeybee on there. And she wasn't getting the result that she was expecting. And there is a preview. Instead of getting the solid pieces, it's these little dots and small pieces here and there. And she's getting the heart and the circles, but on her artwork, none of it was what she was expecting it to be. And what's going on is, and some of you, if I scroll out of here a little bit, a lot of you guys who've been doing this as long or nearly or even longer than me already know what's going on. If you look here, the blue layer is in a fill mode, but you don't see hardly anything that's filled. They're all lines. So if you're in a fill mode and you're seeing all of these lines instead of solid filled objects, how can that be? How can you have all these open shapes when you're in a fill mode? Anybody want to chime in? How does she have all of these open shapes in fill mode? They're not solid blue lines or solid blue shapes. It's just an outline of that petal. It's an outline of that petal and that petal. Nobody got a wager? Nobody got a guess? When this happens, let me go over here to Lightburn. And actually, I'm going to come back to me. All right, Chris. Chris says image on SVG is another common problem when they say it is an SVG file. Brad saying it's not closed paths. Ron saying there is an inside and outside of the object. You're on the right path there. And it could be the not closed paths, Brad, but that's not the problem. The biggest problem, and I'm going to do this real fast. In fact, I'll use the rose petals or the whatever those tulip petals that I just did. I'm going to put this in the blue layer and then put it in the fill mode. All right. Now switch back over here. So this is just two shapes, but this is an example of her problem. It's in fill mode, but those are just two outlines of two petals. The problem is multiple layers stacked on top of each other. And if I delete that, that's still another one. Delete that, still another one. Delete that, still another one. Finally. So I had multiple layers on top of each other. And I get so many projects that are sent to me, files that people are going, I can't get this to work, can't get this to work. And the biggest problem is they are layers on top of layers on top of layers. And if I select just this piece and we go to a preview, you don't even see anything. But what happens is if you've got one of these just slightly off, I'm going to get it over here. Move this one. I'm going to duplicate it and then move it just slightly off. And it snapped right back. There we go. Now, when you go look at the preview of that, you see that. Instead of a solid fill, you get what's not overlapping each other. So on her email, all of these are duplications on top of duplications on top of duplications. If you were to select that entire blue layer and then ungroup everything until everything was a single piece, you could go in here and grab each of these petals one at a time and find that there might be 5 or 6 copies of that petal on top of each other, but they might be just slightly off from one another. And that's why you get this result on the preview, because all these little dots, those are where they weren't overlapping. So you get a little bit of an engraving. And then over here, where there's one solid petal, that's as tight as I can zoom in. But that right there, if we go back over here, one of these over here does not have a duplication. And that's why you see it as a solid fill over here. All right, let's see here. Uh-oh, we got, yep, look at there. Ding, 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 ding. We got a winner in the house. Yep, duplicate layers. That's most likely almost every time I get files from people requesting help when this situation occurs, is duplicates, one on top of the other. Hello there, Dave. Let's see here. Yep, you win. You win. Okay, now we're a minute 30, or a minute 30. We're an hour 30 in. We're 90 minutes in. But I want to address as many of these questions because I have neglected people. I've neglected my emails and people reaching out for help and support in my emails and also on the YouTube comments. So, Brandy, you're late, but you're here in time for Q&As, and I'm addressing the Q&As that I've already received and have neglected to answer over the last 4 days, and figured that'd be a great way for Why are there so many duplicate layers? Because it wasn't my design. This was something that somebody sent to me asking for help for, and they wanted to know why there was a problem, and it's because of all the duplicate layers. And that was the question that was emailed to me. So now let's go back and go back to the inbox, and that was Miss Mandy. And I've only got 3 more emails to go over. Let's see here. And not that one. Okay, here's a good one. All right. So, I've done living hinges and done, complete circular living hinges. But let me grab this really large bookmark that I've got, because one of the viewers had a question about doing living hinges that require more material than you've got work bed, and how do you do that? All right, so this is a very, very, very large bookmark. And for those who haven't seen this, yes, this is a bookmark. The way it works is if you set that on your nightstand and you're reading your book at night, instead of putting a little bookmark that sits in there with little feathers on it that the cats grab and pull out, you just drape your book across this, opened up, marking your spot. And this doesn't crack the spine or extend the spine, and just holds your spot for you. But it incorporates 2 living hinges. And as large as this is, this can't be made on the diode, because it's from end to end, that is too large of a piece to cut out the living hinges and the necessary slots. This one was done on the CO2 way back when. But I had people asking me how to do something like this on the diode. And it was real simple. You just split the bottom. Whatever that total length is, you put a line right down the middle, and you could actually even put some bow tie designs where they would interlock with each other. So you could, snap them together at the bottom. But the question of the email that I've got, he's wanting to do, in fact, let's look at it so I can make sure I'm telling you absolutely right. This was from Jack, and switch. Trying to make a living hinge to wrap around a plant pot. Trouble is, the dimension is too big for the work area. How do I cut it or break it in half so that it will work in the work area 400 by 400? So he's got a 400 by 400 work area, and he's wanting to do a complete wrap, circular wrap around a plant pot. And I don't know of a strong way that you can cut. If this living hinge was to extend all the way across the bottom, split that living hinge, and to be able to join them together. What I would try and do if it was me and I wanted to put a living hinge shaper around a circular piece that I can only get, if I don't know what your total length is, I don't know what your diameter of your pot is. If it's a gallon pot, that's going to be a big living hinge. So if you got a 400 by 400 work area and you're only able to get, it's 200 millimeters, or you can get 400, you needed a total of 800. Well, you can get half of it on there. What I would do would probably make 4 living hinges. So I've got it wouldn't be a perfect circle. It would be kind of shaped like that, more or less. You'd have a living hinge here and here, here, and then on the bottom. So you have four. It'd be kind of ovaloid or a square with round with four radiuses on them, and then those flat areas on either side. In fact, let me just go over here to the light burn, because that's a little hard to see. If it was me and not seeing what you got, not knowing what size your pot is, let's just say that was 400 millimeters, and let's put it in the line mode. I would do a section that was from here to here, give or take. That was a living hinge, and then duplicate that and equally space them out. That's a living hinge. That's living hinge, and actually, we'll use our spacing tools here, our distribution tools. Grab that and bring it all over. And let's see, is that the one on? Yeah, there we go. So now those are evenly distributed, and then I would put some type of slots and tabs. I wouldn't do slots and tabs so much as I would do some type of a deal where let's just draw out. Come on. Do that. Convert it to a path. Show my nodes. I'm going to select that one and come up 1, 2, 3, and select this one and come down 1, 2, 3, and duplicate it. Duplicate it again. Grab all three of those. Group them. Now put them on the vertical center of that. And go ahead and duplicate that. Bring it over here. Not there. I want it there. There we go. Bring that outside. Dock it. Weld it. And then subtract it. So these would be living hinges inside here. This is a living hinge. That's a living hinge. And so on and so forth. Living hinge, living hinge. So now those will wrap completely up, and then you can interlock these into here and lock them together. Now it's not going to be round, but you could create a living hinge type situation. And if you can't get all of that in the work area, then what you do is you're going to just do the same thing. Let's go undo. Get those. I don't know why it won't let me select those. Select, Control D, duplicate them, and bring it over here to the middle. Now A, subtract B. And let's draw a straight line and divide this in half. Put it in the, oh, then we'll do that. Put that line in the very center. I don't know why it will not let me select those. I'm selecting the whole thing. But I would divide these in here, and you can do this a couple of ways. Since I'm already here, I'm going to do this with node editing. Go to nodes, It's not a shape, or it's not a path, rather. Convert to a path. It is path. Why is it not letting show me my nodes? Oh, I got to insert a node. Dumb. Insert right there. And here. Now break that. And break that. And drag all that over here. Draw another straight line from there to there. Oh, not there. I missed my point. Now, here again, like I said, we're assuming that this was our actual size is going to be twice that size. So you're only able to get this much of it on the workbed at a time. So this one would be the same size as that one I just drew up, just scaled up, whatever size that actually was. What is it? 337.79. Well, that was stupid because you did too many decimals. 337.79. There we go. And you didn't have the whole thing selected, dumb nuts. Way to go, numb nuts. 337.79. There we go. So there's two halves that would, and you would take and add these to here, Alt Shift H, and come on, Control D, duplicate those. Make sure they're on the center and align. One of these are going to go on the outside. So dock it. Weld it. And these, that's an open shape. So I need to snap those together. And now I can subtract that from there. Oh, I'm on A, subtract B. And they're not sitting proper, or else it would have done better. But you're getting the idea. You'd end up making two halves that you can cut out in your 400 by 400 material, but make them so that they can interlock with each other. And then you can lock that side together with that side and wrap it around your flower pot. So that's one way you can do it. Go back to my, there we go. All right. What's the best way to fix a duplicate layer? Delete it. When you find that you've got duplicates on top of, that's all you can really do is just keep selecting and deleting them. And that's the only thing I can think of. When you find it, and I've had some when I first worked with one fine gentleman from Florida, Craig, he sent me this image that he was working on. And that thing, I'm pretty sure it was done in Adobe Illustrator. And it had layers on top of layers on top of layers. I spent probably 20 minutes just going in and deleting all the extra layers off of all the pieces because it was a very intricate file and tons of duplications. Clack says a lot of software uses filled shapes to create lines. I see it a lot. Yeah, Adobe is the one that I see that coming from almost always. I have not worked with Adobe. I want to learn to use AI. I intended to started getting familiar with it when I got back from LBX, but it's just keeps getting put back on the back burner because really there's not much I can't do in Lightburn that I want to do. And when it comes to laser files, laser friendly files, if you can create it in Lightburn, you're a whole lot better off for yourself. And then for me, where I'm trying to create designs and sell them to you guys, you don't want to go on hobowithwood.com and buy files and find out that there's all these issues that are a result of being done in Adobe. So I just haven't bothered. Lightburn's the industry standard for laser hobbyists, and I just stick with it. Brandy says, do most designers not delete the duplicate layers before they put them up for sale? No, especially if they're not designed in Lightburn, because they're not even aware that there are duplicate layers there, or they're not aware that it even matters, or they don't care that it matters, because all they're worried about, especially a lot of these, you'll find you can buy a ton of cheap files and cheap designs. Oh, they're $1.95. They're this, or you get 100 designs for $5. Well, they're worthless. There's so many problems with them when it comes to cutting them out with lasers that they're not worth the $5 you spend for them. And that's why I don't hesitate to put a premium on my file designs. And people will look at them and say, man, that's a bit steep. Yeah, but I guarantee you they're going to work with a laser and they're going to be Lightburn friendly because they were designed in Lightburn. And exactly as what Clack says, if they're designed in another software, they have no idea that they exist, or they just don't care. And a lot of those designs they're creating, they're not thinking of laser users as being the end use for their design. So that doesn't matter because it's an SVG or something, an AI file. And it's not their intent was never for it to go to what is that, G code through a laser or whatever. So it to them it's a non-issue. It's nothing to even be thought about or concerned about. I don't know. Oh, well, or could you use print and cut? You could use print and cut if you're going to do these bigger pieces like that. Chris, and that's what print and cut was made for. That last video I did Wednesday when we talked about this 48-inch piece, it's a 4-foot welcome sign that I did on my Rolly, and I did it with print and cut. But that's not what print and cut was made for. Print and cut was not designed to do oversized pieces. Print and cut was designed to do what that last email was about. No, it wasn't even designed for that either. Now, print and cut was initially designed for if you created something in Lightburn and you took that file and you did an actual print of either using something, a laminate, one of those printers. I just went the lamination printing and stuff like that. But you print it out, then you can use that same file again to go into Lightburn and use your laser to cut out the decals and the registration marks that get printed on the original graphics were sublimation. That's what I was thinking of. Sublimation printing. But it was actually for cutting out stuff that had been printed. That's why it was called print and cut. You print something, then you can put it over here on your diode and use your laser to cut out all the graphics and designs. That's why I said that my video is how to use this tool incorrectly. you can use the features of print and cut to cut out oversized designs, but that was not what its original intent was. And I have not tried to use it for cutting out oversized designs, simply because you can get it really, really close. But just like aiming your satellite dish, you can get it close and you might get a somewhat of a picture, but it'd be a little bit blurry, but you can't even see it. But you move it just a fraction of a millimeter, and everything comes perfectly clear. Because a fraction of a millimeter here is 100,000 miles out there in space. Same thing with print and cut. Print and cut, you can only give it 2 registration marks. If you could triangulate it, you could get even better, but you get 2 points. And even with just 2 points, it's supposed to take that into consideration and align the design accordingly. But whenever they're really, really close together, your 2 points, because you only get 2 points. Like when I did this piece, the word 4 was the only thing that was printed out. And I probably shouldn't have done that. I should have stopped it up here. But I was able to get 4 on there. So I did 4. And then I had to try and get 2 registration points on the F and the R to center up the rest of it. And it was off a little bit. And this part, that way. It's a little bit off center compared to all the rest of it, because the points were so close together. And this was one of those fonts. It's got rounded fonts on it instead of corner fonts. So I was only even able to guess at my registration points. So print and cut is a nice tool, but you got to have all your ducks in a row. Everything's got to be perfect. It's got to be spot on to have a perfect result. And when you're trying to do a cutout, an extended cutout, and have it line up perfect, and then it also come out square. Me personally, I would do something like this. I would cut it in half and make it so I could interlock the 2 halves together. So that's what I would do. Let's see here. Dale, when I tried dragging left to right box, as soon as I release the mouse button, the box disappears. I'm not sure whether I'm doing something wrong or a wrong setting. From left to right. Well, if you're not, go back here. Here's like here. I don't know why that's not working, because that's a group. I must have something oddball up in here, way up here. That's what it is. I got an artifact in here. That's why it's not letting me grab it. So let me ungroup these and I'll show you. Find that artifact right there. Delete that. Now I'll group those back together. All right. So those 3 items are a group. And if I draw from left to right around that one object right there, my square will just disappear. It's not doing anything. It's because I'm trying to select that one piece. Well, that's not one piece. It's a group. If I encompass that entire group, then it will select that group. So whenever you're trying to draw from left to right and it just disappears, you're not fully encompassing the entire thing. You have to select everything that you're drawing your rectangle around. It only works if you go from left to right, or from right to left. If I just touch just that one piece right there, it'll get that entire group, because all you have to do is just touch any one part of it or any one part of the group from left to right. From right to left. I don't know my left and my right, guys. From right to left, you just have to touch. But if you go from left to right, you have to select the entire group or the entire object. So that's why you most likely, what's going on with you there, Dale. Let's see here. Let's see here. Can you use delete overlapping lines in Lightburn? Yes, you can. But the problem, like with that one file that was in the email, if you remember the preview, she had lots of dots all over the place. They weren't truly overlapping. They were partially overlapping. So removing overlapping lines would not solve her problem because they weren't perfectly overlapped. But I do use remove overlapping lines in Lightburn, but it wouldn't solve that issue. Yes, and sublimation was what I was looking for. Okay. All right. Now, we're 2 hours in. I was wanting to address the YouTube comments, but I'm not going to drag this on any longer. But there were a couple comments about the print and cut feature when I did Wednesday, and I didn't go over every detail about print and cut because it was an introduction to print and cut. You know, I had hoped to do 2 videos on print and cut this week, but my health just didn't let me do that. But one of the questions was, if like I had to change my orientation on where my laser was sitting. My pass through now goes in here and out the other side. But over here on this side, I don't have anywhere presently that's conveniently set up to support the wood as it comes out the back of the laser. So what I did was I engraved as much of this as I could until it started to get to where it's going to be top heavy coming out the back of the laser. And then I took the wood out, flipped it over because I had this side supported. This side was supported and it wasn't going to get top heavy. And then rotated my image in Lightburn so that now it was oriented correctly with the wood, and it engraved the lower half of the wood, because the person that had emailed or commented was like, well, I can't go all the way through the pass through. They had a wall in the way, obstruction. They could only go so far. And they asked, how can you do that? Yeah. You just rotate your wood and then rotate your image and continue the same process. Easy peasy. But then there was a lot of other questions about things that were more in depth and more detailed. And so, you know, I haven't replied to them yet because I was going to do it here, but we're not going to go into all that now. It's too late. But that was an introductory video on how to use print and cut. Not all the ways and all the tricks. There was some questions of like here, the font that's used, you can see there it is. There's no corners on it. It's all round. So this was not really, the L has got one point on it right there, but that's a round curve up there. So when you're trying to use print and cut, you want to make sure you're working with fonts and or objects. I could have went in and done, stars, or just even if it was just blocks or anything that had corners on it, and done a perimeter around it to use for my registration marks. It would have made this outcome that much better. Lots and lots of things that I learned doing this for the first time using the pass through. And I didn't try to address all the things. And I meant to mention this Wednesday, and I didn't. And if you're here and you sent me this, you guys have seen the small little tack hammer that I've got, that when we did the powder coating, and I did it with Woody Woodpecker and called it my little pecker. Before I took Deathly Ill, someone sent me this, and I've lost the envelope. Actually, the envelope that it came in was completely mangled by the UPS UPS, USPS. Post office did a number on this. And if this wasn't hard to destroy or impossible to destroy, it wouldn't have made it intact. But somebody sent me my little rubber, 3D printed, and a little hobo with wood. And this is I'm guessing that's a 3D printed flexible material, and that's pretty cool. Non-marring hammer. So I wish I could call you by name, but that thing was totally mangled and destroyed. I did receive it. Oh, upside down. I did receive it, and thank you very, very much. Greatly appreciated. That does come in handy when you want a non-marring hammer. But I lost what was left of the envelope, and I don't know if I would have been able to read it if I did still have it. Oh, and Scott, are you taking credit for that, Scott? Was that you? Was that from you, sir? Okay, Scott says yes. Well, thank you, Scott. That is really cool. And something that I do hope to get into is 3D printing, but just hasn't happened yet. But that's really neat. That's the green material, whatever that is almost holographic. You know, it's really neat looking. Lyle, I never did go to the doctor because it's just not in my budget, and I know what I had. I had probably just a cold, a flu, but I got pneumonia, and it was a light case pneumonia, and it's just constantly, lots of hacking, lots of pressure in the chest, but a whole lot of steam showers and a whole lot of rest, and got over it. And I'm on the mend now after being in the bed for the last 3.5 days or so. But I do appreciate everybody's thoughts, wishes, and prayers. But we're on the mend. We're going to continue to get better, and we'll move forward with our regularly scheduled schedules. I hope to try to see 2 videos a week and a live stream each Saturday. I appreciate everybody tuning in tonight. We're 2 hours in. We're going to call it here. And because I started with 3D printing, moved to lasers. Well, I hope to get into 3D printing eventually, but we'll see. Guys, thank you again. Thank you to all my patrons, and I will try and get caught up on all my emails from my patrons. I've had a few that have signed up since Wednesday that I have not gotten a coupon code for yet for the website. I will get that done tomorrow and get caught up on all of the patrons. If you're not subscribed to the channel, guys, subscribe to the channel. That's my goal, is I'm trying to hit that 10,000 mark before the anniversary. And we were tracking right along until I got sick. Now things have fallen off, but I know a bunch of you watching are regular viewers and you're not subscribed yet. It don't cost you a penny to subscribe. Hit that subscribe button and let's get 10,000 before the anniversary. And you guys have a great weekend. And Richard, I'm feeling a whole lot better. And if you and I need to get together and figure out what you were needing to get resolved. So my schedule for tomorrow is wide open. It's Sunday, and I don't like doing yard work on a Sunday, but my yard is in such disrepair, so bad, that if the weather permits, I'm going to get out and do a little trimming tomorrow. But your schedule permitting tomorrow, you email me a time that you and I can get together, and I will make my schedule fit your schedule, and we'll get together in the live stream and figure out whatever that was honing you that we need to get straightened out. So that's I'm pretty sure that was Bringenberg. Richard, that was, I'm pretty sure you and I were the ones. Okay, well, there it is. What'd you say? We will, but not until after Monday. All right, yeah, and now we're starting next week. I got to get back in my schedule Tuesdays and Thursday videos, so we'll get together. Right now, tomorrow is completely open, but if you're not going to be available until after Monday, we'll figure out a time and make it happen. I want to try and accommodate you. But I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to go pour me. Now I will probably go pour me a pineapple moonshine shot to help rest the throat and go turn in. So, guys, thanks for watching. And yeah, no, I'm not. That's what I'm saying. I'm not going to push myself too hard. And y'all have a good night. We're going to hit this end string button and wait for it to end, just like